Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming to our session today. By show of hands, who came to our booth yesterday and had some beer and played Plinko? Awesome. Thanks for stopping by. All right, so our session today, we're going to talk about like where do we come from, where are we going. It's I like to call it DBA past, present, and future, because this title's a little bit too confusing. So I'm going to do a few introductions. My name's Eric Russo. I'm a SVP of Database Services at Dataville. Lead a pretty big group of DBAs. Been in the industry a long time. Excited to be here at PASS today doing this panel. And we'll go through each of your guys' profiles, and if you can introduce yourself, that'd be great. Arjunis?
This on? Yes. Hi, Arjunis Fernandez. I'm a principal on the Azure Data team. I work on the database platform area, and my focus right now is on software as a service offerings, of which you may have heard nothing because it's a brand new team. So you will see the fruits of our work hopefully soon. My experience is basically database engine, SQL Server. I'm an MCM, used to be an MVP. I worked in the storage industry for quite a while as well, so I have that little bit of background. But yeah, that was a DBA for the better part of 14 years. So happy to share my experiences with you all.
Thank you. Yogi, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Yogi Barot. I'm Microsoft Specialist, Principal Solution Architect at AWS. Yeah, Microsoft Specialist SA at AWS. So basically, I have 22 years of experience working with SQL Server and other database technology. I started my career as an Oracle DBA, Oracle 7, and then moved off to up to Oracle 11G and then to SQL Server. And I also have Microsoft Azure experience. And last 2 years, I've been helping customer migrate their on-premise SQL Server workload to AWS Cloud. So been DBA in my whole past life, and I still I cannot take the DBA hat off my head. I can still consider myself as a DBA because I'm a DBA by heart.
Thank you. All right, Kevin's not here yet. JP, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Right, I'm JP Chen. I'm the Senior Director for the SQL Server practice at Dataville. I'm so excited to be here. Chris, hope you are as well. And great friends, right? All the SQL community friends. So excited to see you guys again. We skipped 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, fantastic. I'm extremely passionate about this. Every year, I wait for this week, right, to come over to Seattle and see everyone, right? So I'm really lucky. I'm really fortunate, and this moment's still like a little bit surreal for me, right? And in past many years, I attend a lot of sessions. I remember the first session, I attended the Arjunis session.
Oh, awesome.
On database marrying. You remember that one? Database marrying.
A long time ago.
So many years later, and not only I get to sit next to Arjunis, I get to copy his hairstyle as well. Yes. So I'm really lucky as well. As the Senior Director for SQL Server practice, I get to have the opportunity to collaborate with more than 200 plus DBAs in the US and also in India, supporting more than 250 plus customers, right, ranging from small to enterprise companies. Okay, right, even if we have 0 DBA or 25 DBAs, our team, not me, our team and I can definitely collaborate and work with you to support your SQL Server environments, right, minimizing downtime, right. And also maximizing performance. That's something that we always try to achieve. Okay?
Thank you, JP. All right, Justin.
And hi, my name is Justin Azevedo. I'm a DBA, senior DBA with Dataville. And I've been working with SQL Server since before Clippy was included in Office. It's supposed to be revolutionizing the Office product. No offense to the Microsoft guy down there. So yeah, I'm a senior DBA with Dataville.
Thank you. All right, so if you guys could fill out the evaluation form when we're done today and turn it in to Donna back there, you'll be entered for a chance to win a Bluetooth speaker. So we appreciate all feedback. So just a little bit about Dataville. We won't spend a lot of time on this, but like JP was talking about, our expertise is in databases, data integration, analytics, et cetera. And we have a very big footprint across our customers. And in the panel discussion today, it's going to be Q&A format. So we're going to take some insights from the panel here, and then some questions are going to come to the audience. So excited to hear some of your answers to these questions. We're very lucky to have all these people on this panel today. And a little bit more about Dataville, talking about what we do as a company. All right, so our first questions are about DBA past. So some of us are a little bit older and have been around longer in the DBA industry. So we're going to ask some questions about what was it like back in the day. So Yogi, how did you get your first role as a DBA?
Interesting question. So I was back in India, and I was recently graduating, and then I got, last year's on my university, I got engaged, and my fiance was from Canada. So he said, make sure you take an Oracle DBA training when you come here, because I want you to start your career as a DBA, because it was a DBA was a booming at that time, right? So there were two things I could have learned is like SAP ERP at that time or Oracle DBA. So he said, why don't you take a DBA course? So I took a DBA course, and I learned so much that I also started teaching Oracle to a learning institute back then before I moved to Canada, right? So, and since I had the background, I think at that time it was so easy to find a job. Just within 15 days, I got my first Oracle DBA contract. And since then, I've been working last 23 years in Canada, actually.
Great, thank you. Justin, same question for you.
Yeah, I had been a consultant in the SME space for years, and coming out of that, a headhunter actually found me a position they were asking for an ASP.NET developer that has expertise in SQL Server. And so I went to interview for the position, they hired me, and I've stayed at DBA pretty much ever since. So the role ended up being not so much ASP.NET, but more SQL Server, analytics and data handling and administration. And yeah.
Nice, great, thank you. JP, let's talk a little bit about Past Summit. When was the first time you attended Past Summit, and what session stands out to you the most?
Wow. The first time I attended so many of them, but the first really memorable one was I saying earlier. That's when Arjun presented about database mirroring. Do you remember the topic? Was it?
I don't remember exactly.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Mirroring was involved.
Yeah, database mirroring, right? So yeah, so that's been more than many years ago. So like I was saying earlier, I was so excited. I do remember speaking to Arjun, and many years later, I get to invite Arjun to our office, to our Broomfield office. Remember that one?
Yes.
Yeah. 19?
Yeah, 2019 discussion.
Yeah. So yeah, so I started out when I had a full head of hair, and now I slightly, just a bit late, just a bit late, shave off a bit, okay, not much, as you can tell, but it's again, just a real moment for me, to be able to invite Arjun as the, right, what's the new title again? The principal as a data, right, president from Microsoft, and invite Arjun and Matthew, right? Matthew Ball, yeah. Matthew and Arjun came over to our Broomfield headquarters. Dataville's headquarters is located in Broomfield, just 10 miles from Denver, right? Yeah, that's correct. North. So yeah, that's quite exciting moment. That's something extremely memorable for me, to attend the first SQL Pass. Probably that was not my first, but that was the most memorable one.
Right. Thank you,
JP.
Yeah, thank you, JP. Same question for Arjunis.
Yeah, JP says way too many nice things about me. I'm not that nice, actually. But I'm kidding. But yeah, so my first official pass was 2010. I had been aware of the others, and I had kind of been sort of doing things remotely for PASS, but attending PASS. 2010 was my first time. And as many of you will agree, some of the best PASS sessions are by Bob Ward. And I remember the one for that year was fantastic. It was about latches. It was called Inside SQL Server Latches. And if you guys still want to hear about SQL Server and latches, that presentation is now freely online, so you can go see it.
Great.
I actually looked it up this morning. I was like, wow, that presentation is actually there. And it reminded me of so many things. I quickly browsed through it because I remember having been like enchanted by it, right? It had so many different things, like concepts about memory structures and how things get loaded and how the engine signals things, locking versus latching. Oh my gosh. That kind of stuff was super interesting to me. I mean, a lot of you guys are not really interested in the super deep internals of SQL Server, but me as a nerd, that was very satisfying. So if you want to learn more about that, I highly recommend. It's a brain melter, though. I will warn you.
Thank you. And for the audience, does anybody want to answer that same question? When the first time you attended PASS was? Yeah, go ahead. This year? All right. Great. What was the session that stands out the most to you so far? Oh, great. Awesome. Anybody else?
I think I enjoyed seeing Brent Ozar the most.
Oh, nice.
I really liked. I had met him in 2016 in Orlando, but it was kind of cool to see him again and go to his session.
Great.
Hand raised over there.
Oh. Yeah, go ahead.
My first was in 2019.
Right before the pandemic. Awesome. What was your favorite session?
I think it was actually Speaker Idol. I was just kind of, saw a bunch of people like lightning talks and everything. So coming from like the SQL Saturday kind of side of it or whatever.
Yeah.
Seeing people like present like that. So.
Nice. Great. Thank you. Go ahead.
Mine was 2018, where I met JP. I'm going to say Speaker Idol too. Was that the Rob Volk one? When he did the whole song and dance?
No, I think that was the year after. But yeah.
Yeah, Speaker Idol was definitely mine, right? And that's why I'm speaking here.
Great.
What got me into it was Speaker Idol. That's what started this whole madness.
Nice. Oh, okay. Awesome. What was your favorite session?
That's interesting.
Oh, nice. Great. Thank you for sharing. All right, so the next question's for Yogi. Yogi, prior to the beginning of the wide adoption of the cloud, how often did you have to go into a data center to work on a database server? What was your best memory and your worst memory of that?
Yeah, so I can talk about it. Actually, if I remember my first job, up to first 10 years, the data center was itself in the same building, right? So it was not separate, right? It was just together, right? So just remember the server room where you just have a special badge to go inside. It's so cold. There's nothing to sit down over here. You're just standing, and there's a one monitor, and there's multiple server rack that connects the monitor. There's a switch. You just change the production UAT.
Yeah, the
and then
KVM switch.
You just work on that, right? I still remember we had a backup operator, but being a DBA, I think I was also responsible for the tape backups, sending it offsite, right? So sometimes if the operator doesn't come, I would need to go to the tape library, update the tape, change it, put it in the basket outside so that the Iron Mountain will come and pick up at 10 a.m. in the morning, right? So I still remember doing those kind of stuff. And the worst thing, what I remember is I used to go to, now that we are doing this all like multi-cloud DR and all the great architecture, at that time nothing persists like that, right? So we were doing every year, going to SunGuard facility, which is like 100 kilometers from my house. We need to go there, sleep there, and then we will try to recover everything like Oracle database from the scratch using the tape backups. And at that time we realized that, oh, the master key is missing. I don't have encryption key. So something, because there was never a perfect DR that we recovered everything successfully. There was always something missing, and we had to just do some workaround. Oh, let me get this copy from my office computer and then get this restored, right? So it was this kind of a worst memory that I had, is like long day, long night, and we have certain hour to restore, going to the data center and restore those databases. Yeah, those were some days now. We will never get those days again.
Yeah, definitely not, right? Thank you. So Justin, what was the longest amount of time you had to wait for a database to restore from tape? Or any other tape stories? Or it'd be interesting.
I personally hate tape, to be honest with you. How many years later, it still makes me cringe. But about 30 years ago, I used to work in Motorola's data center, and their tape library was approximately about half the size of this room. And we had about 10 tape drives in the front. 2 people staffed it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, including holidays. There would be tapes along the wall. There was tapes on racks going along the length of the room. And these 2 people, all they would do all day long was pull scratch tapes from the racks, refeed them into the backups, and then put them back in numerical sequence into the racks. And the restore jobs would always take priority over any backup job, so you'd have to go pull a specific tape number off a rack and go put it back into the drive. And then maybe a restore job would have 6 or 7 tapes you would have to do this to. But the longest time the restore ever took is when you can't find the tape because it was misfiled somewhere. And it was your responsibility to go looking through thousands of tapes to find it. So, but it's amazing that, those jobs are no longer with us, but
Right.
we've moved on from it, but good memories.
Yeah.
So.
Definitely, it was always unnerving when you have to go back to tape for something. Okay, JP, what other database platforms have you worked on before SQL Server?
Wow. Excuse me. So I started out as an Oracle DBA. Guys, don't laugh, okay? I remember my first job out of college. Before I graduated from college, I was offered I was really fortunate. I've been really lucky in my whole life. I get to meet amazing people like you guys here, right? I get to work with a lot of amazing people. So a year before I graduated from college, I got a full-time offer from the university where I was attending. I was made as a system admin, and I still remember installing Oracle on the Sunspot machines. You remember the Sunspot machines? Then you know your age, okay? You're not many of us are not supposed to know about the Sunspot machines, but so Oracle was actually, so I dated Oracle and I married SQL Server.
Nice, that's a good way to put it. Thank you. Arjunus. So what is the most obscure database platform you have ever worked on?
You guys are going to laugh, but I'm actually going to say Oracle. But it's Oracle on Windows.
Oh,
and
yeah.
T40 with the Oracle Clustering Pack 1.0. It did not feel like a version 1.0. It felt like a version 0.1. It was so unstable, and it was, well, I don't want to say terrible, but I want to say it needed some improvement at the very least. So yeah, Oracle on Windows and T40. And that's because Oracle did not like Wolfpack. If you guys remember the clustering pack for Windows NT
Right.
back in the day. Some of you are showing your age because you're nodding with me.
I had to work on it,
Oracle did
yeah.
not like Wolfpack, so we had to run Oracle on top of this construction. And it did work eventually, so there's that positive side to that story, yeah. So Oracle on Windows NT 4.0 is my answer.
That's interesting. Thank you. How about for the audience? Does anybody want to volunteer an obscure database? Okay. Oh, that's a good one.
Wow.
I work with Fox Pro as well.
Nice. Oh, I don't think I've heard of that one. Oh, it's mainframe?
Oh, mainframes.
Go ahead.
Lotus
Oh, yeah,
Notes.
yeah.
I guess that did have a database.
Oh, you guys are? Nice. Yeah.
Wow.
Anybody else? All right, so we're going to move to DBAs of the present. Start talking about what's it like being a DBA today and what our experiences are. So Yogi, the cloud is somewhat new for a lot of DBAs. How does one go about learning the cloud technology, and where do they start?
I can share about my journey and then I can answer the question. So basically, I was working 5-6 years ago, working in government. So I started as a DBA, become a data architect, solution architect. Then I thought, oh my God, a lot of things to know and learn as a solution architect, because at that time I need to know all the networking and firewall component and all the security component and application piece together with the database. And I said, it's too much. I cannot catch up with this new technology. I went to San Jose for Hadoop conference, and it was great conference, but I felt depressed after the conference because I didn't know anything about the things they were talking. All new words for me, new words like Kafka and then like cloud data and all the things basically. I was completely new for me. And then I said, you know what, I'd rather go back to my DBA job. It's so easy, backup and restore, right click, you just deploy, copy and paste deploy. It's like, why do I take a stress? So I moved back to DBA job in government. And I had no plan to change that job because it was such a great package. And I thought I'm going to retire over here. So we had this Microsoft appliance, if you remember, parallel data warehouse appliance. Only 6 customers in whole Canada have that appliance, right? So we were one of them, and that appliance had so many hardware issues. Like every week I would raise a ticket, and then every other day, the RAID, like one of the hard disk has to replace, and then I would stay in like 15, 20 hours, I would just stay until that issue is finished, right? So eventually, Microsoft suggested you have to now migrate to Azure Synapse. At that time, Synapse wasn't even the name. It was something else, right? So he said, you have to go to the cloud now. That's the only way, because we're not supporting this appliance anymore. So they sent us to the Azure architect training. We took a 5-day course. And at that time, everything was new to me, but it sounds interesting, right? So, and obviously I didn't have too much work at that time in government. I had a lot of time during the day. So I started learning more about Azure after getting that training, right? So I loved it so much that I said, I got my learn and be curious become like more. I want to learn how this works, like, so not theoretical, practically. So there are 35 different labs. They didn't give they gave us the link of the lab. We didn't do in the training, but then I did all the labs myself, right? So that's where I got my hands dirty, and I started learning Microsoft Azure. In 3 months, I became Azure Certified Solution Architect Associate, and then there was a 300 and 301, the exam I had to give. The first time I even failed that exam. It's the first time I failed something, because obviously you're trying to become an expert of Azure without any experience and giving an exam. But I still, I did not take it lightly. I said, no, I want to learn this. So I gave second attempt. I passed that exam, become Azure Data Engineer in a month, become Azure Security Architect in another month, become Azure AI Engineer in a month, Azure Administrator. So I got kind of 5 different Microsoft Azure certificates, and that's where I said, okay, there is something cool other than just being a DBA. There is a life beyond the database backup and restore. There's something else in the cloud that I should educate myself, and it really got me into this cloud journey, basically.
Okay, so you talked a lot about Azure, but how did you get AWS certified?
AWS, yeah. So when I joined, my role is at Microsoft Specialist SA, right, when I joined at AWS. And honestly, I had no AWS on my resume. And if you guys want to join AWS, you don't need to know AWS, basically. We don't expect you to know any cloud, in fact. As long as you have a great learn and be curious, you can join and you can become a solution architect. I had no prior pre-sales or prior official solution architect title or even prior AWS experience. So they just hired me based on the Microsoft Azure experience and the background. And I took a challenge. In first 3 months, I got 3 certification. And that's the way because when I joined the team, I feel like so pressure that everyone, the guy sitting next to my team, he said, I'm writing the AWS certification exam questions. And another guy, he says, oh, I'm a .NET expert. Another person says, I worked in Microsoft for 20 years. I was an AD expert over here, and I'm an AD expert over here. And I look at myself, I'm not any one of these people, so I need to at least do something to learn AWS. How do I learn it? So I went back to my certification. So I set a goal myself. I said, I want to learn AWS by passing this certification exam. So my manager's manager, the skill level, he was like all certified at that time. So I just had one meeting with him, and that inspired me. And because I said I have 5 Microsoft Azure, in between that, in COVID, I don't know if you guys know, Oracle was offering a free OCI certification. I got 5 OCI certification as well, right? So AWS was next on my list. Yeah. So within a year, I got all AWS certified. So right now I have all AWS certification, whatever it's out. The new one just came about the SAP, which I still have to give it probably next year. I'm done for this year.
Nice. That's pretty amazing. So JP, new cloud technologies seem to be popping up every day. What's your strategy to keep up with them?
I just wanted to be like Yogi.
Do that.
I just want to copy whatever she did. I just want to copy that. That's inspiring. That's
So
motivating.
I would say everyone, unless you step out, because these things will be scary. Just like I was scared with Hadoop and I did not move forward. I just, even though I went conference, even though I did two days of training, that's it. I could not believe that I can learn that and I can put that in practice and I can help customers doing that technology, right? But these things is always new. When I joined AWS, like EC2 was new, S3 was new, and I said, oh, Azure is much is like block storage. And because I'm always, my mindset is always in Azure terminology, right? So I said, what is this new? I don't know if I'm going to be able to learn this, right?
A question?
So I became an accidental DBA, but I've had a lot of friends that wants to join the DBA, want to be DBA, but a lot of jobs they're looking for experience. And how do you give advice for a new DBA who knows how to, who took the course, who knows the how DBA works and everything, but how do you what's your advice on getting to that industry without experience?
Yeah, I think we do have that question in the panel. I will answer it right now since you asked it, no problem. So basically for any new member who wants to become a DBA without an experience, it's a really challenge in nowadays to find a job, but it's not a difficult. What you have to do some in-home project. That's what I did for Azure. Exactly what I followed. Like I did like 6 months of project just by myself. Even though I wasn't doing for any company or any customer, but I was doing actual work, gets my hands dirty, right? So you need to show maybe helping a volunteering in a library or help, ask for, I think in college and communities, like I can talk about Canada, I don't know about America or your region, but we do have community colleges where you can just go and volunteer, right? So you can say, I can help volunteer your project, I can be free of cost, basically DBA services, right? So at least it gets you added to something on your resume, and then you can get started. What I found about this job is challenging. If you have a 20 years of experience, no one wants an experienced DBA anymore. They are okay with like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. Like 10 years, 12 years is maximum for senior DBA. They're not going to look for like 30 years of experience for DBA anymore, right? As long as you manage, you know what you do, as long as you can manage the basic administration staff task, you should be fine to get the job. So it's just to get started, I would say encourage to give a certification exam. Because if you don't have an experience, and if you have an exam on your certification on your resume, that speaks up, that it shows that at least you are proved from Microsoft or AWS that you are knowing this technology, right? So that is my advice for whoever wants to join the new DBA path without experience. Take the certification exams, do volunteer, offer. My first job was like maybe $15, $20, $25, I don't even remember.
That's
like,
a lot more than I did.
Yeah,
Get
so,
to
no, that was a DBA job though, $25 or something, right? But who cares, as long as I'm getting the job, right? So reduce your rate and then see if you can offer to help as a junior DBA.
That's good
Yeah,
advice.
I would like to
Go ahead.
respond to that as well. It's all about passion, right? Look at Yogi, how passionate she's about the DBA business. First, I'm really lucky, really fortunate to be able to interview a lot of candidates. The first thing I look for is passion. How much you care about it. Right? You cannot lie about it. there's no way resume you can stretch the truth a bit, but like passion, I'll be able to tell why do you ask how passionate you about a DBA business, right? So first is about passion. Second is like the effort. How much effort you're gonna put in there, even though you love somebody so much, right? For example, I always in love with supermodels, but like I don't get to marry supermodels. But but again, like put in the effort. But the DBA, industry, all depends like how much effort you put in, and also volunteering, right? Volunteer, reach out to speak to like the SQL Server community, the data community leaders, right? Years ago, I always reach out to Arjunists, right? I invite him to speak at our office, right? And these are things that get involved in the SQL community, in the data community, right? And those are the things I would suggest, like someone new trying to break into the data and SQL community and get a job as a DBA.
I have another answer for you because AWS offers this free hackathon, and there where any fresh graduate without experience can take part and participate, and then you need to build something being part of a group or alone, right? So that also great way for someone to showcase their skills if they don't have an experience. They can put that on the resume that I did this in AWS hackathon.
All right, yeah. Some of our team members done those.
If I could just add quickly, the other thing that I'll say is some DBA jobs are masquerade as a different name. It may have system administrator in the name. It may have some other, weird engineer in the name somewhere kind of thing. So you don't need to only look for things that say database administrator. You may want to look for, other variants of, IT jobs that may sound like. And it's just search for keywords that make sense. Like, if you're interested in DBAing Oracle, search for Oracle. If you're interested in DBAing for SQL Server, obviously search for SQL Server and so forth and so on.
I think we've been seeing a lot more listings or putting engineer now,
Yes,
like data
database engineer, yeah,
right.
that seems to be all the rage.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for the question. Justin, we're going to go back to you. What are the tasks that take most of your time nowadays?
Well, at my role, DataVale, I'm out in front of the customer. So, if a customer has a backup request or something routine, you can always enter a ticket for that. But I'm talking to my customers at least once a week. And they also call me regularly all the time. We're designing new solutions, standing up servers, creating DR environments. I mean, you name it. We have to move data. I mean, there's always a project. The customer's always working on something, or they bought a new tool that they're rolling out, or something's always happening. And so most of my time is spent, listening to the customer, putting plans together, and then translating that into something that our other DBAs can follow. So that's what I do.
All right, thank you. JP, what do you think the best type of task to automate is?
The best type of task to automate? Well, I'm a lazy DBA. Wait a minute, you guys are not? Right? So, anything that's, anything that's not automated. I know that's not a good way of saying it. Anything that's manual tasks, like that you have to do every day, right? Like, of course, all of us, we automate backups, and we automate, patching, right? So these are the things that anything that I can think of that I will need to do again to automate it, so I don't have to do it step by step. I just run a script, right? Or write some Terraform or CloudFormation scripts to automate it. Those are things those are opportunities I will definitely look into doing it by automation rather than me doing it. I would rather cook a good steak or salmon, right? I enjoy my cooking than doing something that requires manual effort there.
All right, thank you. Same question for the audience. Does anybody have a good example of something that you automated that was probably like laborious in the beginning?
The painful down-level refresh system, we completely automated. Ansible deploying our SQL instances, so we don't have to think about it anymore. Like, when you ask the question, what types of tasks are the ones to be automated? All of them.
Oh, yeah, I like that answer. Thanks. Okay. Oh, where? Oh, go ahead.
So one that, so instead of having to rely on a third party from, so instead of
That's a good one. All right. Arjunus, I have a question for you.
Sure.
So what are some of your customers or companies' top concerns with their database environments?
Oh, well, that's a tough one, but because we have literally hundreds of thousands of customers.
Yeah.
So I would say largely they're looking for stability. And when I mean stability, that means several things, right? They want a service that works in a stable fashion, right? It's not disrupted frequently. So they're looking for those SLAs to be met on the availability. They're also looking for stability on the performance side, right? So they're looking for those SLAs on the performance side to be met as well, of course. They're also looking for security, right? They're looking for secure environments where they can feel comfortable placing their data so that it's going to be protected and safeguarded from the bad guys. And so we invest very heavily on that. Overall, they overall look for that, you know, that partner relationship rather than a customer and vendor relationship, right? And so we kind of try to tackle all of those areas holistically, and we're trying to put a big emphasis in all of those. And as our own customer, right? Because we dog food our services a heck of a lot, right? Microsoft runs on Microsoft,
Right.
You can imagine Azure runs on Azure, right? So we have tons of things in Azure that run on top of Cosmos DB, for example. The very basic core Azure things run across Cosmos DB and SQL database. We want to make sure that we understand what causes our customers pain, right? So it's causing pain to us. It's definitely causing pain to our customers. So we try to address those things as well.
Okay, thank you. Great answer. JP, what is your experience working in DBAs environments? What would you say the pros are of using a cloud provider?
DBAS environments, that's platform as a service. Okay, right. So my experience on it, our team actually helped a lot of customers migrate to both Azure, Microsoft Azure, and also to AWS ODS for SQL, only because we got both Microsoft and AWS here. So fortunately, again, I got lucky again, right? I get to work with like different technologies, right? So in terms of data running experience working in a database as a service environment, so there are a lot of things that it's a managed service, right? The keywords manage, right? Microsoft Azure and AWS will manage your services, meaning that you don't have to worry about your infrastructure, right? You only need to be concerned about your data and your apps, right? Applications, okay? Right. So of course, a lot of automations, like you don't need to worry about your backups, right? Because it's automated, right? And a lot of like patching, you can schedule, specify the maintenance window, and the patching will take care of it by yourself. But you need to agree to it, right? You need to agree to the automated patching, right? Right. What would I say about the pros of using a cloud provider? Well, both of them are amazing. It all depends on what you need, right? Similar to like, I know, Black Friday is coming up, Cyber Monday is coming up. Usually, we all of us do a lot of shopping. I always remind my wife, get what you need, not what you want, right? So the same applies for choosing a cloud database, right? Running your database in both either Azure or AWS. Make sure like that's what you need, right? It all depends on your scenario, right? I have amazing experience with both of them, right? Because I love automations. I love like I said before, I'm a lazy DBA. Definitely something that I don't need to worry about, like backup. I don't need to worry about it. It's automated, right? Definitely both of them are amazing.
All right, thank you. Yogi, what would you say the most promising trend in the database world is right now that excites you?
The most trend in the database world is moving to cloud, actually. And you will be surprised how many of SQL servers still running on premise, and widely, I talked to like a lot of customer in Canada and outside Canada as well. So somehow they wanted to do data center exit. They don't want to extend the data center what's the agreement, right? And then second thing is they want to move to the cloud native services. That is a trend right now, right? So I think a couple of years ago, there was like just lift and shift, migrate to cloud, right? Just move it to cloud, some company. And some companies like, I want to wait and see, let other goes first, let me hear their experience, their story, then I will think about it, right? So it was like that. But I think with COVID, people realized that they have to go to cloud, right? To modernize, to take an advantage and the operation, reduce the TCO, adding more flexibility, scalability, expanding their business into another region, much easier with cloud, innovations offered with the cloud. So I think that is a trend right now. Even in database, everyone wants to find, like every other customer I talk, they said, I would do lift and shift, but how can I modernize? Or how can I use a cloud native feature? I think that's a trend right now.
Okay, thank you. All right, now we're going to talk about what does DBA look like in the future. So, Arjun, this was Kevin's question, but if you could answer this
Can
one.
pretend that I'm Kevin.
Kevin.
Can you sign my book? Yes, I will.
What are your beliefs about the future of the DBA position?
So, I mean, this is a super controversial topic, right? Most people will say, "Oh, yeah, they're always going to have a job, and there's always going to be tasks for them." I mean, I fully agree, right? When you take the whole administrator name out of the database role, right? You will have a database role. It may not be administering and performing tasks that are that require any sort of babysitting whatsoever, right? You're not going to be doing the one-off things, more ad hoc things that are or more value to your business. And I think that's the key there, right? As long as you provide value to your business, you should feel super safe about your job. The moment you notice that yourself are doing too many things repeatedly, you're probably not putting enough effort to kind of progress in your role. But I would say that the future of the DBA is just the fact that they're going to become more data engineers and data. I don't know how to qualify, but the safeguarders of the data, as opposed to, just performing tasks about manual processes that involve babysitting something too much.
Can I add that too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead.
So it's exactly the future DBA is a data engineer. So before, like, if you see DBA, what is DBA? Database administrator, right? It's too narrow. Just administer one database. I think the role is going to evolve in the future, being a data person, not the database person. Right? Right now you are a database person, so you're only looking after the database, but eventually you will need to know how that data handles, how to bring that data in, how to go that data out, move from OLTP to OLAP, to analytics, to visualizations, basically the whole data flow process, you need to know that. So even if you know about this past conference, right, this is not I think it was before database conference, now it's a data conference, right? Even the conference name is changed to the data conference.
Good.
So you're not only looking at the DBA track, you're also looking at the general, how the whole data analytics, how the data ecosystem, basically, I would say that's the right word, the data ecosystem, how do you fit into the data ecosystem, and you need to learn a new technology, new tools, about anything about data security, data protection, data in, data out, data query, anything to do with the data, basically.
Thank you. All right, I think we answered 2 questions with one there, so that's good. Arjunis, what are your suggestions for DBAs for future-proofing their careers and advancements?
I would say stay open to what's fresh out there, right? Keep an eye on new technologies that are coming out, because some of them can be pretty destructive. Right, if you look at how our industry or a vertical within the industry has been fairly flat in terms of what's actually taking off as newer technologies to disrupt the existing database space. Keep an eye on those, and also keep an eye on the engines that are taking more relevance and are gaining more adoption from newer stacks, right? So we're definitely very open to SQL Server and Microsoft technologies in this conference, right? But we should always be very open to other things. Postgres is big, MySQL is big, Oracle continues to be big as well, right? So there's tons of things that are emerging and gaining a lot more popularity. So you should probably become a little bit more proficient on those, and also kind of stay apprised of what are higher level management APIs, right? So things that allow you to handle multiple things at once, right? In terms of fleets of things as opposed to any one individual thing. I think Yogi was referring to that as well, right? Start thinking holistically, what kind of value can you provide to your company as a whole and the entire data state as opposed to a single database.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yogi, did you want to answer that too?
Yeah, so I think we can go along the same line, right? The future of DBA, don't just stay with the DBA. Yesterday I was talking to someone that I want to go back to that government and I want to retire in that government. But in a DBA role, no, not in DBA role, right? So that is basically, if you think about the long term, maybe your next 5 years career, cloud is the thing to get started. If you have not started, cloud is the thing to get mastered if you have not done. Pick a specific area which interests you, and few things I tell to all the people I mentor. You need to make sure that the thing has to have value. Basically, you need to earn some money, obviously, from that career. And the or whatever, including the technology. Like if you say, oh, I love data analytics, I love Power BI, or I love Synapse, or I love this RDS or Aurora, whatever it is, right? You need to have that technology will be able to give you bread and butter. And second thing is, you need to be good at the technology. And then third thing, you need to have a passion for that. That's the most important thing. You need to have a passion for it. And how do you develop the passion for it, right? So you need to like it, right? As JP mentioned, right? That you need to love it from inside. Like I loved when I was a DBA. So many people they give me an opportunity to become a manager and director, but I just loved being a technical resource. And I just said, I don't want to move out of this role because I love that role, right? So you need to love the technology and at the same time have a passion. Keep looking for the trends and keep learning new. There's nothing wrong in learning. Even if I'm I work for AWS, there's nothing wrong in learning Synapse, right? Because what I'm talking to my customer to help them make a right decision based on their requirement, right? So technologies are out there. Please keep an eye. I would say 1 hour per day, you have to do reading. It's difficult goal on yourself, but somehow you need to adjust your time. Probably in a DBS can even adjust in a work schedule. You don't need an extra hour outside your work. As long as you are committed that I want to learn something new today. Right now, a lot of things out on the website, like all these webinars happening. Every day I get how many? You guys must be getting so many emails, right? Virtual webinars and events. So many people wants to share out the knowledge and then share the new technology trends with you. Join those events. Share your knowledge. Do lunch and learn in your company, right? Share your knowledge. You learn something today and then just say, tomorrow I'm going to teach this to other people, developers, or maybe other team across another team in my company. So be proactive, do lunch and learn yourself first, and the knowledge, when you share with someone else, you're not losing anything. You're making it more stronger. You yourself becoming more stronger because you are the first listener of listening that, right? So I do a lot of lunch and learns, and any new technology, in fact, SQL 2022, I'm going to do session next week, right? So what I did last night, I know it's recorded. I read the SQL 2022 book so that I understand myself what is new in for me, right? And now I'm going to teach it to other people, right? So that is the way for you to, for the future. Otherwise, if you just think, I'm going to just do backup and restore, copy paste, take a code from Visual Studio. When I was doing it was TFS. Take a code from TFS and deploy onto SQL Management Studio. It's not going to it's not going to last further. Eventually, you will be forced to either change your career or learn something new at that time, right? So at that time, it will be so difficult. That's why I'm telling you, just start now, and you are much ahead of the game if you start now.
Thank you. Yeah, that was great. I think we should always be open to learning, right?
Can I complete that with something else?
Yes.
I think we talked a lot about what we know, but it's also about who you know. So networking is super important in our industry. And so you should take advantage of opportunities offered by conferences like this to talk to people that you have never spoken to in your life. Establish those relationships and nurture them, more importantly. Start at the local level. If you haven't joined your local user group, you should. Start meeting other people there. And not just your local, PAS UG. You should go to other events for other technologies as well, right? Because who knows, that may be the one thing that employs you in the future, right? So keep your options open. Yep.
Right. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I
Yeah.
noticed yesterday, just in the Microsoft presentation, was, we were just touching on when Bob and Connor showed the self-healing database, and that probably caught my attention more than anything else, because that is essentially the beginning of which I knew was going to happen, is that databases aren't going to need people to do performance tuning. They're not going to need that management. All that quiet DBA work is eventually going to go away, because Microsoft wants to get bigger customers. They don't, they want to get people just using the data. They don't want people to worry about this. So
Right.
that caught my attention. I think within 10 years, I think that self-healing database will be a reality.
And I can add to that, right? When I was a DBA, I thought first time when I heard about cloud, I said there is no DBA role for the cloud. Which track I'm going to go, right? If they're going to automate everything, what I'm going to do? But I think the more data is coming now than what you used to handle before. I used to handle like 100 gig database, and it's a big database, 100 gigabyte. And now 100 terabyte is even not a big database, right? So you see the context. So there is always going to be challenge of handling that data modeling, and also working with index tuning, column store index, the new performance enhancement. Go deep dive into those areas and do a miracle. Help save a query. If it's running for 1 hour, you can turn that into 1 second as well. It's in your hand. How do you rewrite that query, right? So.
Thank you. All right, JP. So many of our customers and many companies need 24/7 support on their database systems. So, how would you go about enabling a follow-the-sun support model, 24/7?
Right. So as a DBA, I think all of us been through those days when you do late evening or off-hour releases, or you have a P1 problem over the weekend while you're enjoying your football games, right? Or when the Monday night football is on, you have to do a release or fix a problem, right? When people going home to watch Thursday night football game, they play football Thursdays, right? They do, right? So when they are heading home, the office folks are heading home to watch Thursday night football game. You actually need to go either go online, remote in to do your releases. Those are never fun, right? So just imagine in terms of enabling follow-the-sun support model, right? Again, luckily, right, because companies like DataVel, right, we do have huge offices, not just in the US, in India. Remember, the time zone right here, when it's 11 p.m., it's 11 a.m. over there. It's 12 hours difference, right? Majority of the time zones. I know, for Eastern EST time zone, in comparison to IST, that's 10 hours and 30 minutes. Is that correct? Yeah. I got it. So it's been a while, but I still got it. So what I'm suggesting is you do need to have a support team where the sun never set on your extension, your team, right? Meaning that, regardless where your extension teams are, right? So they are always in business hours, right? So when it's like 1 a.m. here, it's actually 1 p.m. over there. Just imagine, right? People get to sleep. You do have a perfect balance, in terms of your personal life and work life. That's something all of us achieve for, right? Just follow the Sun support model. Make sure like the Sun never set on any of your support team or support staff. Okay, yeah. Again, like not just with DataVal, right? In case you need other support, I would always suggest like make sure you have a team behind you. You're only as good as your team, right? So, right, make sure there's no weakest link there, right? We need to once you have people in office 24/7, right? Not you, right? 24/7 being like you are in office for 8 hours, right? We have 3 different shifts, right? And so that's definitely something that the Sun will never set in. Similar to back in the days like the UK, right, United Kingdom, they always say they have colonies all around the globe, right? And luckily we do have support teams around the globe, South America, Asia, and North America.
Thanks, JP. Does anybody want to share how you support your environment 24/7? Like, are you on call? Do you have teams that help you? On call?
Pager.
Pager duty, yeah.
I mean, I can definitely add to that because since I've been working at DataVal, I've been on call the least amount that I've ever been in my professional career, and as you can say, I've had a long career, so it is beneficial to your your private life to have a team working all the time.
I agree with that. JP, how do you? Last question. So we're almost there. How can you delegate routine tasks so you could focus on strategic initiatives in your projects?
Well, I think that's a very common problem. Majority, if not all of us have. You want to like Yogi. You want to learn the newest things that's out there, right? You want to learn like Synapse, right? Is it? You want to learn Synapse and you want to learn like data lake, Snowflake, many other interesting stuff. But how do you do that, right? You are not 24/7. You're not a machine, okay? I don't care what Terminator tells you. You're not a machine. So you need somebody to be able to help you, do the routine, the steps like that does not require senior DBA knowledge or senior knowledge, where you've been doing it for so many years, you'll be able to delegate that, right? Definitely like having a support team, having an extension of your support team elsewhere, right? Such as like in India or South America, definitely give you much more time to focus on these major projects, major initiatives that you need time for that, right? You need time for new initiative. You need time for family. You need time for, for the gym or for 1 hour reading per day, right? So that's one of the most effective strategy that I use on a daily basis, and be able to be able to communicate and delegate what I need to get done, right? From our support team, that definitely enable me to focus on some of the higher priority initiative, right? Such as learning something new.
Thank you, JP. Same question for you, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of spin that question around a little bit because, I mean, I delegate tasks every day. I can't do every single customer request for all of my customers. It's just I don't have that kind of capacity. However, when I read that question, it more sounds to me like what I'm actually doing for my customers than I'm actually doing myself, because I get paid, my customers delegate to me.
Right.
And then I'm the one that makes that happen. So I think so that they can focus on their business and what they're doing, or their data team can be doing development or whatever else that they need to do, and leave the task to me, that they delegate to me. So that's the way I read that question for me.
Okay, thank you very much. So that was the last of our questions. Really appreciate everybody attending. Really appreciate all the panelists and them volunteering time to speak with us today. Like I mentioned earlier, if you want to fill out the evaluation form, we'll enter you in for a chance to win a speaker. And
You got a question over there?
do you have a question?
Can I throw a question at the panel?
Yeah, go ahead.
Talk about the future of DBA work. On like a scale of 1 to 10, how important do you think it is for a DBA to become comfortable being a developer? We're talking, of code, there's T-SQL. So how
Right.
important is that skill moving forward?
So right, so he's asking how important it is to become a developer and learning other technologies.
So I think there's always an underlying language that you're going to have to use for automating those things that you want to automate. So whatever that language is, right? It may be Terraform, it may be CloudFormation, it may be you end up writing something on PowerShell. It may be 1,000 different things, but you have to be flexible and finding that one thing that will enable you to automate whatever it is. It may not even be a regular classical programming language, right? It may be some other framework that allows you to automate things. So calling yourself a developer, it's a completely different thing in my book, right? Like you have to worry about Scrum meetings every morning or checking in code and so forth. Depending on the amount of automation that you're doing and how heavy the automation is, you may already be doing that, right? So there is going to be a fine line at some point between what we call developers and what we call data engineers. Everything is gonna merge, in my opinion, in the future. So how much actual coding we're gonna do? Does it look like what we do today? Probably not, right? Just like if you look at assembly code that people used to write back in the day until C came along, right? So that's kind of how I see the progression of tech in general. So just be open to things. Don't think that you're always going to be able to get away with some basic T-SQL commands, because it's just not going to do well enough for your career.
I can answer that differently. Just from my perspective, I can never become a developer. So I can never code. And if I was so scared of Visual Studio as well. If someone asked me to debug a solution in Visual Studio, I won't be able to debug that, even right now, right? Because I never paid attention to look at the .NET code or understand what's trying to do, like nugget packets and read all the stuff. Now, at least at this stage, I can understand the code, but I can never write the code, right? So I can never become a developer. And does DBA has to become a developer? Do they have to learn this all new way of coding and the new CI/CD pipelines and all the stuff? Not necessary. You can become, depends on where you started off. Like if you are stronger in application, if you are strong application DBA, if you love and enjoy coding, then that's one of the options that you have to go. But not necessarily you just need to go that path, right? You can just probably learn how to drag and drop the different component in Azure Data Factory, or maybe AWS DMS, or maybe a Glue pipeline, and just become an expert of that, right? Does not need you to do any of the coding. Like this new, I would say, Azure Functions, and there's something else as well. What's that? Equivalent to Lambda, right? Azure Function, yeah. So Lambda and some of the things, even the step functions, you just drag and drop. You don't need to know how to write a truly piece of code. You can just make the technology work for you as long as you know overall how it fits into the overall picture.
Is it a distinction without a difference though? Because like the ADF example, right? Drag and drop, like you got SSIS developers, right? Like it's still like codeless isn't a thing. There's still a development skill set behind that.
I think that's an equal progression of low code that's gaining traction these days. You're probably going to see more of that in the data space, right? Like right now, things are super complex, but I think that everything over the long run, everything becomes a little more abstract, easier to use. So I would say that you'll probably see some similar paradigms to apply to ADF over the long run. I don't know if you guys remember BIML, for example. BIML was a great high level abstraction over SSIS. But you kind of have to be a developer to use it, right? So you see there's a ton of value in automating SSIS processes with BIML. And I invested the time to learn BIML, and it turned out to be one of the best investments that I could have made in my career, because every time I needed to write something that needed 30 SSIS packages based out of metadata, I could just write one BIML package, right? So you see there are things that add value to your business and enhance your career. This is why I keep telling you guys to just stay open for those things that can make your life or your career better.
And again, I would also say networking is important, because who you know and where do you connect, you never know if they might be looking for someone and you can just be right fit for that skill set, right? So be open, have your network built on LinkedIn, and just look out for the opportunity that right fits your role, skills, and that interest you.
Do you want to ask a question? Okay.
You were saying that nowadays we do dropping, we don't have to do coding. Like in the future of database, what about artificial intelligence? How would it affect DBA work? Because now artificial intelligence will do a better, might do a better job than a regular DBA. Is that a risk for the DBA?
I can answer that, sorry. I saw that demo yesterday. I don't know her name in the keynote, right? She was saying about, I don't know if you guys also saw the demo, right? There, yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? So basically you just say, and it's gonna come up, AI will just create a queries for you. I don't think so AI can replace the DBS job. Yeah. So AI will never be able to replace the DBS job. You can automate certain things, but you still need a brain to think about what to automate, right? So it won't replace the DBS job.
So I'm gonna take a different stance on that one because I do firmly believe that ML and AI are gonna be the future, but ML and AI will still need tons of maturing before we get there.
Right.
So should we feel like scared that tomorrow they're gonna take over? No. Should you be thinking about what higher level things you can do for your business to generate value? Because like I keep saying, value is the keyword, right? You kind of go in that direction. I do firmly believe that at some point, your systems are going to be pretty autonomous, right? Not Oracle autonomous, like actually autonomous. Where I'm sorry, did I say that out loud?
That's why I said 10 years. I see this, it's just more of a kind of warning, just to pay attention.
Yes, correct.
Opportunity to evolve yourself, learn new skills, and keep
Yes.
going.
I mean, if you remember, we had tape operators no longer have a job, right? Before that, we had people with punch cards, right, that you
Right.
needed to put into a system. And so there's always going to be your jobs that keep getting automated, and you need to find those things at a higher level that contribute to your business.
Yeah, the street lights used to run on gas, and so we have people with horses go around and light them.
Yes.
And then the next thing you know, they introduced electricity, and all those guys lost their jobs. But then we created a whole bunch of new jobs for electricians. So I think it's just progression. It's just always,
Yep,
we're just going up.
That's
as
the
we go
evolution
along.
of humanity, right? So, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the other thing about SSMS is how you learn how to do, you can run queries that way, is if you drag and drop and then you script out command. I mean, how is that any different from it, SQL Server doing it for you? That's the same way. In fact, that capability has been there in a different direction all along.
All right. So I think some of the panelists have to go. So thank you for your time, and I enjoyed speaking with everybody.